We are joined by a very compelling panel. Dr. Barbara Paris is the Director of Geriatric Medicine and the Vice Chair of the Department of Medicine at Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn, New York. Dr. Paris has always been interested in the survivor population, some of whom are also her family. As Brooklyn serves the largest community of survivors outside of Israel, a large part of Dr. Paris's work is the provision of medical services to the survivor population. Zahava Stessel is a survivor of Auschwitz, as was her recently deceased husband. She is a patient of Dr. Paris's, who receives assistance from the Claims Conference and from self-help. She came to the United States in the mid-1950s. Naomi Vilko is a board-certified psychiatrist with over 30 years of experience and an expertise in the treatment of trauma, depression, and anxiety disorders. She is the daughter of Holocaust survivors. Both of her parents survived concentration camps, her mother a survivor of Auschwitz as well as a slave labor camp, and her father survived 5 concentration camps and 5 death marches. She has treated several survivors and has a specialty in post-traumatic stress disorder and the psychological trauma effects on the second-generation children of survivors. Ladies, welcome to Outspoken. Thank you so much for taking the time to come join us. We are deeply appreciative. Zahava, I'd like to start with you. As a survivor, could you tell us how the community finds out about what services are out there to support your medical and other needs?
From other survivors, because there is no literature, no newspaper to let us know. And occasionally in the newspapers we find something that say they're helping the survivors, but very little in the general newspaper. So we find out from each other, one survivor from the other, and we don't have the full picture even, because it's hard. Some survivors will believe that it's private what they're getting. They don't want to tell the whole story, so we have to find out on our own way. So,
but how about, for example, self-help? I know that you've worked a little bit. You have a social worker. Do they not tell you what your benefits, what you're entitled to?
It's changing. Now I feel a little bit better, because before that till I find the self-help that we can apply, it was also to find where to go. It's also from other survivors. We can but at that time we didn't even have we have a social worker, but didn't deal so much just what we have not. What we really need.
So there's no organized communal outreach to the survivors, even here in New York, about what's available to you. And what is the process like in terms of applying for help? You do receive some help, correct?
Yes, yes.
And what was the process like in terms of applying for that?
First we had to find the agency. We find the agency, and then the agency interviewed us and find out that we are Auschwitz survivors. It was me and my husband, and then when we can get some help. And then we were offered I could have home attendant, home aid, and this is the way we were told that we can have it.
So you receive home aid, but how about expenses, continuous expenses, monthly expenses for the upkeep of your home, for example?
This even never entered, all these years, never entered in our mind that we can ask something. We were happy with getting the home aid, but slowly now we're realizing that it's get harder to keep up the payment of our home.
So you have taxes, for example, annual taxes. Are you able to recover those? Are you getting any help for that?
No, and finally I asked the social worker, which now, up till now, the social worker, we didn't even know we had a social worker. Now we know we have, so I asked him, and he said, unfortunately, this recurring expenses not covered,
so
only one time.
So the position then of the claims conference vis-a-vis you, apparently, as I
Yes.
understand, is that recurring expenses for the upkeep of your home, to live at home, are not covered.
No,
How about
not
something like
covered.
dental? When you go to the dentist, what
Dental
happens?
would be covered, but
The full amount?
If probably even the full amount, but the procedure, you have to go to the dentist, and the dentist fill out a form. If he's kind and can do it, not every dentist deal with it, but if find a nice dentist, he will fill out the form, like I needed dental work, and it was about $900, and filled out the form.
And what did you receive when it was a $900
And
expense?
I presented the claim to my social worker in self-help, and after a few months, I received my dentist received half of the amount.
Half the amount.
Half of the amount.
Dr. Paris, is this common, these stories that you're hearing?
Yes, but I want to start by saying that the social worker from self-help never, ever communicate with me about my patients. Never call me, how can we help your patient? I never, I could never get their name. I used to call many times and say, I want to speak to the social worker. What can my patient, we as the doctor taking care of these patients, they don't reach out to us in any way to tell us what they see as the patient's needs from the social work point of view, or how we can help get these needs.
These are social workers from entities that were receiving grants also from the claims conference.
Yes. So, the biggest issue is home care. Mrs. Stessel is 88 years old. She lives alone. Her children do not live in New York. So she has to negotiate all of this on her own. Her taxes, her dental bills, all the receipts. I just want to share with you what it takes to even get an application. So here's a checklist from one of the organizations that gets some funding from the claims conference. So first you need a government-issued ID. Well, that's either a passport, a Medicaid card, or a driver's license. A significant number of our patients have none of those. So
Right off the bat, they're not eligible.
You're striked out.
Wow.
Your tax papers, things need to be notarized. How is a patient who's 88 years old, maybe, I brought you my star patient. Most of my patients have visual problems, mobility problems. How are they going to go and get something notarized?
So you find that the needs, that they have the basic medical needs, okay, which you can describe, they're not being met by the claims cover? How about Medicare? How about Medicaid?
So, when I have a patient who has Medicaid, that's a gold mine for me, and I can take a deep breath because I know they're going to get what they need. Because Medicaid in New York is still quite generous, even though it's become more restrictive. And when you need a home attendant, you can apply for one and you can get one. So, for example, I have a patient who has 24-hour home care, but she is up at night for various medical reasons, and she's screaming, having night terrors from the Holocaust, blood sugars going different ways, and she gets out of bed. And a Medicaid home attendant that's there for 24 hours can only get up 3 times a night by law, because they have to sleep, because they have to take care of the patient. So there's such a thing called split shift, which is really very challenging to get. So we ask the survivors to get a few hours from this claims conference or from the German government to supplement the Medicaid. So in the interim of my sending these letters and explaining the situation, 2 months go by and this patient breaks her hip and falls and is in nursing.
While she was waiting for
waiting
claims
2
conference
months,
money.
waiting for that.
And the process
few
of application, I mean, how much paperwork is involved?
It's speaking, I can quote from a lawyer, son of a patient, who basically said it's formalistic, bureaucratic, and nearly impossible to negotiate even as a lawyer's son.
Wow. Naomi.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I wish my mother had a doctor like you. So my mother is going to be 97. She's also Hungarian, so don't tell her I told you her age. And she's required 24-hour care for quite some time. And because I pay all of her bills, she doesn't qualify for anything, not from the claims conference, not from Medicaid.
So you're forced to use your own resources,
Right.
even when she is a survivor and she is entitled to payment.
Right.
And claims conference is holding money as trustee. They refuse to give it unless the survivor is living at the poverty line.
Yes.
Which is
How
quite
does that
low.
make any
And
sense?
in addition, what they'll give has not, even if my mother qualified, if I didn't pay her bills, my mother would qualify.
Well, what is
But
qualification?
even if she had below a certain amount of income and below a certain number of assets, I mean, not only do I pay her bills, but I bought her an apartment. Now, how many survivors have children that are able and willing to do this? My husband and I have been very lucky. My husband also is a doctor and also the son of survivors.
So you have two survivor parents,
right.
and both of them, you said you assisted them to apply for reparations.
Well, my father died when I was 10, so
right, okay.
no one assisted him.
But your mother and your father
Yes.
were in the process of applying. Your father passed away in the process of applying. And then, am I correct in saying that your mother was denied?
My mother there's two kinds of assistance that Germany gives and the Nazi governments. One kind is like a pension, disability pension, and the survivor gets themselves. That's what, and you had to prove injury. It wasn't enough that you were tortured
Right.
for years, okay? And so my father died. And then when my mother reapplied for him, I was still a little girl. I tried again and was denied again. But so she got that for herself. But any other, so dealing directly with Germany, I have to say, as bureaucratic and Germanic as the system is, has been easier than dealing with any agency in the United States. I've been a survivor, a psychiatrist actually for
Right.
more than 40 years. And I dealt with all these agencies, and I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I would have to give up my job.
We're really short on time, so just
Yeah.
give us a little bit about the psychological effects, though. I mean, you have survivors coming here. They are proud people. They're people that completely rebuilt their lives, that literally lost almost the entirety of their family. And now they're coming, and they have American Jews who are in charge of the claims conference. I think there's, only one member of the board that's
Yes.
actually a Holocaust survivor
Right.
of the claims conference, I think. I mean, what kind of psychological effect does that have on them?
Well, my parents in particular, I can only speak, from personal experience really about this. Never trusted the American Jewish community, and now I see for good reason.
And so how does it feel? I mean, what is your feeling when I show you a 990, which is a reporting, a document that the claims conference files every year, has to file as a not-for-profit, showing at the very minimum $300 million worth of net assets, and the fact that you can't even get the entirety of your dental bill paid for?
We accept that we are unable. We have we cannot do it. So we happy what we can receive. We don't have the power. We know we won't be able to fight this. So we're trying to see the little thing what we can get, and filling the forms and signing the papers and trying to learn what we can get. But we don't see the big picture, how much money they have.
Dr. Paris?
Well, I think you said something to me very telling a few days ago that, as survivors, we learn not to speak up. It's one of the survival mechanisms, having gotten them through the war. But Zahava had a husband who unfortunately had dementia and needed full-time help. And because she lives above the poverty line, which is not saying very much. I mean, the poverty line
Right.
for a single person in New York is $12,000 a year. That's quite a challenge. So that doesn't make her a rich person who can afford a 20-hour, $20 an hour home attendant. So she actually, did a lot of the work herself in her 80s, and had some long-term care policy that she used to pay for his help. But that.
I mean, the fact that you even have to qualify to receive assistance from the claims conference or reparations for money that.
One thing I wanted to say was they act, and people have mentioned this before, and I really thank you for doing this program. They act as if it's their money. Like, give me the money for the $20 an hour, 20 hours a week, and I'll supplement it because I can, and hire 24-hour help.
Well, that's the
They
whole
won't
point.
do that.
Is that it is not their money to decide how to use, when to use, what kind of qualifications you have to put on someone, if you have to live at, beneath, or above, just slightly above the poverty line to qualify for assistance. The whole thing is just madness. Thank you so much, Naomi, Zahava, Dr. Paris, for coming on. We are incredibly grateful that you are willing to speak openly and truthfully about these subjects. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.